Hey, this is Andreas from eSurfer. eSurfer is eFoil reseller since 2018. This was the year we started with eFoils. Later on we took on other brands such like Fliteboard, Audi Aerofoils, wakeboards and potentially others in future. Today I want to explain you the difference between Fliteboard and Aerofoils. Let's talk about the companies behind these eFoils. On the one hand, you have Fliteboard, an Australian company which delivered the first Fliteboard early 2019. So this was about 6 months later than eFoils from the US. eFoils, I guess, is still kind of the market leader in the US as an US company. However, Fliteboard managed it over the years to become the market leader in other regions such like Europe and Asia. And this mainly due to huge marketing campaigns, right? They spend a lot of money into marketing and you see Fliteboard advertising everywhere and a lot of content on social media. Aerofoils with the Audi brand is a German company based in Bavaria. One of the founders was an Audi employee, and this is why Audi is today an investor into the Aerofoils GmbH. And this is why the board are allowed to have the Audi trademark on it and are called Audi e-tron foils. Aerofoils came much later than Lift and Aerofoils. They started to deliver 2022. But they were the first one who had a jet propulsion, and they do nothing else other than jets, while the others are still more focusing on propeller solutions. What the difference is, I will explain in a minute. I get very often the question, what is the best eFoil? And my answer is always the same. There is no best eFoil, there's just the best eFoil for one customer, because there are a lot of difference between these boards. And if you look at the Fliteboards here on this side and the Audi Aerofoils foil boards on this side, you will probably already see the difference very clearly between these boards. These are the middle-size boards of Fliteboard, the Fliteboard Pro, and the middle-size board of Aerofoils, the performance model. And you can see, this one is probably more sporty and smaller and more surfer style. And it's the same with the shorter version. There's a Fliteboard Ultra, which is even smaller. And then the Audi e-tron foils competition, which is their smallest boards, is smaller than the performance model, but still much bigger than the Ultra from Fliteboard. If you look to the larger boards, it's a 99-liter board from Fliteboard or the 103-liter board from Aerofoils. This size is very similar. This, for example, is 67 liter, this is 83, so you see already the difference, and the competition is 73 versus around 50 liters depending on the Ultra model. And actually Aerofoils goes even one step further. They have an eFoil tube, something which also eFoils has, but Fliteboard doesn't. And this actually increases the volume by another 60 liters, so you would have 163 liters with this model. Why is this the case? Well, I guess it depends on the DNA of the company behind the brand. So you have Fliteboard. They're an Australian company, their offices are directly at the ocean. Many of their employees and designers are surfers, kite surfers, and they are in the ocean. They have waves, 1 meter, 2 meters. And this is how they design their boards, because they ride them themselves. Same story with eFoils, Puerto Rico, directly at the beach. Their people are surfers, and this is how these boards are designed. I would say Fliteboard and eFoils are very similar in many cases, and this is why I've done a separate video, Fliteboard or eFoils, which exactly explains the difference between these two brands. Flite and Lift versus Aerofoils is a little bit different. It's a different kind of product in my opinion. And Aerofoils is a German company. They are testing their boards on lakes and rivers, or maybe the Mediterranean Sea. And these conditions are very different than the ocean. And this is why they are designed more for this environment. If it comes to most of my customers, They don't necessarily have a water sports background. Some have, some are windsurfer, kite surfers and so on, and they usually go into this direction, fliteboard or lift. But many are boat owners and maybe tried wakeboarding one time or sub riding, but they're not really, surfers. And then there are many reasons why the airfoils could be a very good fit for them. Let's talk about the price. We are a premium eFoil reseller. We tried with cheaper brands, but our experience was not so good. So we stay with the premium brands. And if you look at the aerofoils, full carbon, if you configure it with big battery and big charger, the price is 15,796 euro, including 19% German VAT. So all prices I will mention are including German VAT here. If you go to the Lift 5, it is configured in a very similar way, same size battery, 80 centimeter carbon mast, premium charger, hand controller with color display and so on. So very similar. The price is 15,999, including VAT. So it's around 16,000 euro. Interesting is this with Fliteboard. They are very creative on their website. So how this works, I will show you now. Okay, now we are on the Fliteboard website. This is a European website with prices including VAT. You see the Pro model, 10,651, but it's fiberglass. Also the soft top version is fiberglass, so we choose carbon. Oh, now it's 11,841, but actually we are currently running a carbon promotion on the Fliteboard website, which is over in a few days. In a real world, it's 30,031. Okay, the colors make no difference in price, so we don't change anything. Now we have the 80 centimeter aluminium mast, but we want to have the 82 centimeter carbon mast, like Audi and the Aerofoils. So it doesn't matter if you choose jet or propeller, the price is the same. And now, we jump to 16,029 euro, hence it is sold out. So what's next? Okay, we don't need a folding prop. We also don't change the wings. The pricing difference is not major. But now, the battery, nano, up to 45 minutes under ideal circumstances. So you don't get more than 30 minutes at all. Makes no sense. And of course, we want to have a big battery like eFoils and Aerofoils. And suddenly we are at 17,567. And it comes with a slow charger. Only 9 hours to charge. Well, I want to ride 2 times a day or 3 times. So I have to buy the fast charger like I have with eFoils and Aerofoils. And now we are at 18,445. The controller. It's a small black and white controller. No, I want to have, like with Aerofoils and eFoils, the nice with color display. 19,028 euro. Wow, that's impressive. Let's talk about the service. I get a lot of questions. How do I need to maintain my eFoil, and is there a service requirement? If it comes to Aerofoils and eFoils, this is pretty easy. If you use it in salt water, just use fresh water to clean it up. Also the contacts and the battery. Sometimes you can use contact spray for the contacts, especially if you're using it in salt water. But other than that, it's pretty easy. Aerofoils is offering a service, but it's not mandatory. You can send it into the factory if you're heavily using it, and if you're using it a lot in salt water, you can send it in to do a service. However, for Fliteboards, this is different. They expect this, and they claim that you may not get your 24 months warranty if you don't send it in for a service. And the service interval for Series 1, 2 and 2.2 is 50 hours of use or 6 months, whatever is shorter. And the newer versions, Series 3, 4 and 5 have 100 hours or at least once a year. So if you do the math, right, and let's stick with the 100, not even the 50, which would make it worse. So 100 hours, 1 hour, 2 hours is one session, so you have 50 sessions. If you ride 2 or 3 sessions a week, which is not a lot, many people ride 2 sessions a day, yeah? But if you do the math for 3 sessions a week, I think you end up with 4 months. So after 4 months, you need to send in your stuff to a service center. So let's say you start in April, May, June, July. So in the mid of the season, Fliteboard is expecting you to bring your board to a service center. And this means they need the mast, a true glide propeller if you have, the hand controller, and potentially the battery. And if you have no service center close to you, it's actually quite complicated to send this via FedEx or something else. This is, I would say, a disadvantage of Fliteboard. The reason for that is that they are using a gearbox. A gearbox, you can also hear this when a Fliteboard is riding. You heard a special sound, yeah, already from 5,100 meters away. And this is because of the gearbox, and the gearbox is also responsible that they need this service. Aerofoils and lift don't have a gearbox, and that's why they don't have a mandatory service. Let's talk about the support. We are only selling premium brands, eFoils, Fliteboard, Aerofoils, and my expectation from a premium brand is that they have a common goal: to bring the customer as fast as possible to the water again if there is a problem. And for many years this was the case. From last year, 2024, it became very difficult with Fliteboard. Fliteboard was sold 2023 to Brunswick Corporation. They are now a 16,000 employee company. The founder and CEO, David Trevor, left, and they had a lot of technical problems in 2024 and still have them in 2025. But this can happen to everybody. But the way the supports act is, from my understanding, it's just not, this is not the way it should be. So I can explain you why. So when you are contacting the Fliteboard support, very professional, you get a ticket and so on. But then you start feeling, am I talking to an AI robot? Or if I'm lucky, maybe this is a person in the call center, which probably doesn't have any clue from an eFoil and never was on an eFoil, because the questions they ask sometimes make no sense at all. They just create work. And the worst thing is that if you're going with the emails back and forth, that they always cut the email history. So you can't go back, look down on what was already discussed before. And this ends up with them asking already the same question. They say, hey, listen, you asked this already and I gave you the answer. And this is going on and going on. What my guess is, yeah, and it's only my guess, is support center should be a cost center, right? It costs money, but yeah, you earn money with the board, and now you have to take care that the customers can use their eFoil. With Fliteboard, I think they tried to make a profit center out of it, right? I get the feeling that people care more about if I, as a reseller, buy more spare parts rather than helping the customer going back to back on the board. In 2024, I had 3 cases. Yeah? 3 customers bought a Fliteboard here in Berlin, and they were out of the board. It was not functioning for 6 weeks in the summer. And they ended up and wanted to come with a lawyer and say, hey, listen, I just bought this board, we have summer, yeah, and I'm 6 weeks without the board. And I felt for them, of course. I tried to give some of my own equipment, but the Fliteboard support, they were just not acting. You know, for example, there was a jet which was broken, which just should be replaced. So it would be including sending the jet, and actually we had one here, but even if they need to send it, it would only take 2 days and the customer would be back on the water. But no, they ask all this question, open this, make a video of this, and they just don't stop. You probably see my frustration, and I'm not very happy with this. I mentioned this with the email history for 3 years, every year again. They just don't care. And you can see now that they are sending survey emails, yeah, asking how satisfied the customers are, because I think they now realize that people are unhappy, but they don't really do anything, right? So for Fliteboard, I would say, hey, you really have to fix this, because if you want to be a premium brand, you have to act like a premium brand. For Aerofoils, this is relatively easy for me. You know, I'm based in Berlin, Germany. They are a German company. We have a very strong connection. We know us since 2018. And either I have the spare parts already here or I can get them very fast. We are selling all our boards all over Europe, and it is really very fast. If you have a problem, we identify via WhatsApp what the issue is. We will send you via Express right away a new part which you can easily replace yourself, and the old component goes back to us. So if in terms of support, you know, I have to say, sorry Flite, you know, have a look at how Aerofoils is doing this. This is much better. The sun is coming out, at least in this small corner of my ground here, so that's why I'm so close to the trees. Let's talk about the boards. This is a Carbon Pro version with 67 liter, and this is a performance from Aerofoils with 83 liters. Both are carbon boards. Both have a very nice deck pad which is inserted into the board. Yeah? These boards were in the water many times, especially this performance. This is, by the way, serial number 1, so the first board which came out of the factory in 2022. And it's heavily used, that's why you see water drops and smaller scratches and so on. The big difference, again, middle size of Fliteboard, middle size of Aerofoils, is the size. Yeah? 67 versus 83 liters makes a difference. Also the shape, you can see it's much wider. This is slimmer, like more surfer style. And this is what this makes a sportier board. And I talked about this earlier, windsurfer, kite surfers, surfers go probably for lift foils and Flite, and people who just ride in their leisure time, maybe more for Aerofoils. Quality-wise and functional-wise, it's really the same because there are no electronics included. Both have this battery compartment, there's not much really inside. You can just change the boards with the mast with 4 screws. Yeah? Of course not between Fliteboard and Aerofoils, but the different models from Aerofoils and the different models from Fliteboard. I guess the main difference is what Fliteboard is doing with the handles. They're using since series 4, I think, or maybe 3, I don't even know, silicone handles. They have the advantage that they get dry much faster than neoprene handles like Aerofoils and Liftfoils are using them. But what I personally don't like is, I need the handle to grab it very fast, right? And this actually comes out, so I have to push it here to really use it. While the neoprene handles, you just grab them. And I prefer this. On the other hand, again, it's an advantage that these ones from out of silicone will get faster dry. Overall picture, same quality, both have a good design. The riding style is different because it's a different kind of board, but from a quality point of view, both are very good. Let's talk about the mast and the propulsion. You have Audi Aerofoils on this side and the Fliteboard here. Fliteboard traditionally started with the propeller, and most of the eFoils they are selling are still with the propeller because it is built for the propeller. You can see this here in the fuselage and where the stabilizer or back wing is positioned. You see here on this side actually that it's directly mounted here at the jet, which is more stable. Because here sometimes you can see it is pretty loose, here it is really not loose. And if you go onto the beach, into the water, people sometimes flip the boards too early. It is already free swimming, however, maybe there's only so much place to the ground, and if they then lay on the board, actually the stabilizer will go into the ground, and this has a potential risk that this will break. The biggest difference really is that Fliteboard is coming with an 80 centimeter aluminium mast, and Audi with a carbon fiber mast, which is a more expensive and better material. Fliteboard did this because they had to use this at the beginning for cooling, but in the meanwhile I think the technology progresses, because others like Aerofoils and eFoils don't need an aluminium mast to keep the controller cool. This is why you can also buy actually a carbon fiber mast, 82 centimeters from Fliteboard, but it comes with a price tag of an additional 1,500 euro. Aerofoils only do jets, and they were the inventor of the jet for an eFoil. They launched 2022 as the first company with an eFoil which has a jet propulsion, and they do nothing else. You don't get a propeller. And that's why they are very good in the jets. They are focusing, it's very efficient, very silent. eFoils came with a jet 1 or 2 years after Aerofoils, and the first generation was actually swappable. So you could take out the propeller module and replace it with a jet module. Also, this module was 1,500 euro, but at least you had the chance to change it. If you want to ride an aggressive propeller and your family wants to have a safe jet, you were able to swap it. However, it seems that this didn't work. There were a lot of problems with the first generation jets. We had, I think, at least 5 or 6 jets which were broken in this season. And they changed it this year in Series 5. So you have to decide now from the beginning, do you want a propeller or do you want to have a jet? It's not able to swap them anymore. I guess this is because of the gearbox, but this is just a guess. But now you have to decide when you buy your eFoil. The difference between jet and propeller. I mean, there are reasons very aggressive and sporty riders take off the prop guard, and then you have a very efficient eFoil. Same with eFoils, people do this as well. Or they're using a folding prop because they want to ride waves. So there is a market for the propeller still. However, for people who are not so sporty and are not in this kind of category of surfers and aggressive sporty guys, why would you choose an open propeller which has a certain risk if the jets are now available and powerful enough? I personally was witness of 2 accidents with propellers, one time with the 2 and one time with 2 fingers. These accidents do not happen very often. However, if they happen, they are not really nice. That's why, again, if you're an experienced rider and you want the pressure of the propeller, fine, go for it. It's your choice, right? It's all good. But if you're not this kind of person and just want to have some fun on the water, I would not take the risk of an open propeller. Okay, let's talk about the hand controllers. We have Fliteboard here on the left side and Audi Aerofoils on the right side. Size-wise, the Fliteboard controller is slightly smaller. This results into the fact that it's actually not floating. It needs the hand strap on it, otherwise it will go down. We had this experience already here in the school. The Aerofoils does float like eFoils because they have just more volume, so that they float on its own. The other big difference, you see the standard remote from Flite has a relatively small black and white display, and you have a large color display like with eFoils on the Aerofoils remote. You can see that you have different modes here. This is something only Aerofoils has, and this is rocket to ride, nice and smooth and gonna fly. And what this does is it changes the aggressiveness of the trigger. In addition, you go into a mode and you see that you have 20 gears. So you can limit the speed to just this, right? Same here. You have 20 gears, you can change it with plus and minus. You can do this with both of them while you are riding or while you are not riding. And this has two advantages. A, for beginners, they can really turn this down and then push the entire trigger and accelerate by the buttons. This has the advantage that they don't have to keep the trigger like this, they just push it. For experienced riders, it makes sense that you try while you are maybe laying on the board the maximum speed you actually really need and limit it to this speed, because in this case you can use the entire range of the trigger. This is true for both of them, and of course you have more control if you have the entire range rather than just, if you go to full speed always, only maybe a third of it. Both have a lot of functions which you can read on the display. You can also connect both to an app and read everything, including a map where you are riding with which speed. If you need a color display or not is personal taste. For example, I have reading glasses and I cannot really see a lot on the flight remote while I'm riding. I see much better here with the Audi hand controller because this has larger display and colors, like the eFoils Elite. And then I see at least the most important things. I see my speed, I see the battery I have still left, and yeah. That's what I personally prefer. You can buy a color display hand controller from Fliteboard, but it has a price tag of, I think, an additional 800 euro or so. Prices are always including German VAT. Let's talk about the batteries. This is what I call a standard battery. It has 2.1 to 2.2 kW, and this is the same size that Lift introduced with the first eFoil, the size that Fliteboard introduced with their first eFoil, and also the size which Aerofoils started with. The one from Aerofoils and Fliteboard, they look almost identical. They have the same plugs, same size. So sometimes we have to be careful that we don't put the wrong battery into a board. What you have to look for is the size of the battery, right? Fliteboard and Lift and later on Aerofoil started to bring smaller batteries. But the reason for this was that if you want to do wave riding, you want to have less weight, and you also don't need a big battery because you want to use the power of the wave. So now Fliteboard made this 2 times. So what originally was the small battery now became for them the standard battery. And the original standard battery became the large battery, right? Because they also have a very small nano battery which you can really only use for wave riding. And so this is really confusing, and we went already through the pricing strategy of Fliteboard on the website. So you have to watch that you get the right battery, and for most of the riders who don't go into the waves, it would be the bigger one. Also for the charger. If you take the small charger from Fliteboard, it will take 9 hours to charge this big battery. Sometimes you want to ride 2 or even 3 times a day. So if you have to charge for 9 hours, this doesn't really make sense. So all the premium chargers, no matter if Fliteboard Aerofoils or eFoils, they charge these batteries in 1.5 hours. Okay, let's talk about wings. Both Fliteboard and Aerofoils have by now a huge collection on different wings, and it can be sometimes confusing. I have customers coming to the shop and say, hey, I want to test, like, every board, every wing you have, and most of the times I'm not saying anything and I just let them try, and at the end of the day they've maybe tested 2 boards or 3 boards and 2 wings. Yeah? The amount of wings, different wings, can be confusing. However, don't worry, because every board comes with a standard wing. Yeah? You can change it, but the manufacturer, no matter if Fliteboard or Aerofoils, is recommending a certain wing for this board. And this is the ideal setup for this board. So there's not really a big reason to change it, unless you really know what you want and what you are doing. So don't worry, take the standard wing, and if you later on, if you are missing something, if you want more speed, yeah, or you want to carve harder, or you want to have more efficiency, then we can look into a new wing. And what I suggest to my customers is, hey, come with your own board to the shop, ride with your own board and wing for 20 minutes or maybe 10, 15 minutes, and then we swap the wings, and then you will feel the difference, because it's really hard to explain this on the phone or in the video. You have to try it. Of course, I can say, hey, this wing is faster and this wing is better for carving. But at the end of the day, you should just try it out because it feels different for every rider. Let's look into the different models of Fliteboard and Aerofoils. If you are looking at the carbon boards, we mentioned it already, you have the 100 liter class where Fliteboard is 99 liters and Aerofoils 103. They are almost similar, or same. Then you have the middle size and the small size, but the volume goes much faster down with Fliteboard than with Aerofoils. This is 83 liters, 67, I mentioned it before. But if you want to go even smaller and more aggressive, right, I suggest to watch the Fliteboard or eFoils video, because there I'm explaining that these companies are now going even smaller. Yeah, it's not really an eFoil anymore, it's maybe a foil assist, right? This is a very small, tiny, very light board with a very small battery, and they are basically only designed for giving you a push to reach the wave, not even to go from one wave to another necessarily, just give you the push. And again, if you want to learn more about these kind of aggressive boards for wave riding, watch the video Fliteboard or eFoils, and I put the link below into the description. On the other way around, you can have it even easier and bigger, you know. We talked about the aero loops. This is something you can put on top of the Audi board. eFoils has something similar with the Blowfish. Fliteboard does not have such an eFoil tube so far. Maybe they will come with it later. And this is the advantage for beginners. It makes it really easy. For very heavy people, you can basically stand when you are not having any speed, right? Which you cannot with a normal eFoil. It's also easier if you want to take somebody with you or maybe a dog. This can be a lot of fun. And if you don't need it because you want to have a standard eFoil, you just take it off and you have your standard eFoil. And then, of course, you have the eFoil scooters, which is even easier because you have a handlebar. There's a Hyperfly from Aerofoils, and there's also a Flite scooter from Fliteboard. And I've made a separate video where I'm comparing these two models in detail. It's called Flite Scooter or Hyperfly, and I put the link to the video into the description below. Okay, this was another long video. At the beginning we had no sun yet. Now the sun is already going down and I have to hurry up to put everything back into the shop. Let's summarize. What is the best eFoil, Fliteboard or Aerofoils? And my answer would be, like I said at the beginning, no, there is no best eFoil. There's only a best eFoil for a certain customer. Yeah. If you are a surfer, you're a very good water sport enthusiast and you want to have a very sporty ride and the power, I think it is good to look into Fliteboard and eFoils. There's a competition model as well from Aerofoils, and you know, if you have the chance, test them all. But if you consider like lift and flight, then I would suggest to watch the video I made about the eFoils or Flite. If you are more like somebody who doesn't have this big water sports background, then I guess you know you would look into the Aerofoils products. And ideally you have the chance to test it, right? I mean, come to our shop, we have all of them here, and that's why we are offering this kind of test rides. I hope this video was helpful for you, and I see you.